Single Girl Brunches with the Best is the Single Diaries signature interview series with extraordinary young women. Whether they're starting their own businesses, traveling the world, or chasing their dreams, these girls inspire us with their passions, ambitions, and accomplishments. They remind us of the importance of cultivating our relationships with ourselves so that we can bring the best of who we are into every other relationship in our lives. Over coffee at their favorite spots, they share their personal stories and tell us what it means to them to be a single girl. On this episode of Single Girl Brunches with the Best, we're talking Living Your Passion with Liza Tagliati.
Finding my passion and finding what I can do as a career that is fulfilling to me was very empowering.
Yeah. So I just wanted to get started by asking you, where does your interest and love for action sports come from?
I'd have to say that I grew up doing it, and I feel like I was really fortunate to, be one of those kids whose parents always took them up to the mountains, and I learned to snowboard when I was young, and, I learned to wakeboard when I was young, and it really kind of instilled that passion at a young age for me, and so I was kind of able to grow up doing it, and that helped me progress.
What was the first sport that you got started doing?
Snowboarding. Snowboarding was the first, and it was so much fun because I was good at it to start with, and that always helps. That always helps. So it's like, you start something, it's like, wow, this is fun. Yeah. I think it's cool. It's fun to watch other people do it. And so that's what kind of got me started on that path, I guess you could say.
So tell me a little bit about, you got started just doing the sports at a young age. When did it become something that you didn't just like to do, but were actually interested in pursuing, like, to another level? And actually, like, was it first doing it and then watching the sports, or, what really took it?
In terms of kind of developing that passion for it, it was definitely, when I was younger, it was definitely more of a family activity. You go up with your parents and you're a kid. I think it's kind of in high school where it was a turning point that, your friends start getting their licenses, and it's like, oh wow, now we can kind of take off and go to the mountains and explore this, and it only kind of grew in college. And then after college is when I took a year off before grad school, and I just wanted to go all in. I wanted to move to the mountains. I moved up to Tahoe and just spent all my time snowboarding. I was teaching snowboarding. I was doing snowboard patrol. So so that's where I really started to get into the industry side of it, and it became my life,
So you spent a year working in Tahoe.
Yeah.
On ski resort.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It was a lot of fun. It was an unbelievable experience, and it actually ended up changing my entire career path.
Yeah. So it was while you were working in Tahoe that you really decided, medicine's not it, and you wanted to switch career paths and go into working in action sports.
Yeah.
What was that like? I mean, you've sort of been building up from one direction for so long.
It was really frustrating. Everything I had done up to that point, all the internships, all the work experience, all the education I had was all in a different area. And I was, then trying to break into this new industry that, I didn't have that kind of formal education in. And, I knew I could do it. I know the industry. I know how to do these things. Like, I'm smart. I can pick stuff up. But, it's so hard to kind of break in and get a chance when you're up against a bunch of other people that are in that same situation. And that's when I kind of decided to go back to school, get my master's degree in marketing, and then, have a little experience behind it, so that so I felt like I was on a more level playing field, I guess, so that other people could see, you know, without experience, you know, it helps to have something to show to your name. You know?
Did you know what you wanted to do exactly?
I knew that I wanted to work in marketing. Basically, I love how creative it is. I love that, you know, you get to kind of explore a lot of different areas of it, and it just seemed like it fit my personality the most. You know, I was never going to be a professional athlete. Yeah. That was never a viable career path for me. And so, you know, just out of all the things that you can do in business, marketing just seemed fun to me, and it seemed strategic and interesting, and it's definitely what I wanted to pursue within it.
It's a really interesting point too, because I think particularly with something like action sports, some people might think there's only one way to be involved, and that is as an athlete, but there are so many different ways to be involved in an industry.
Exactly. You know, once I started to learn the brands more and meet people who worked at brands and be like, wow, you have a really cool job. You know, I feel like that's how it starts. I feel like it starts by meeting someone and saying like, wow, that's really cool, and then you kind of explore it from that point. That's what even got me started in thinking. You know, I'd been snowboarding my whole life, but I never really even thought of that as an option until you start living in that, and all of a sudden things start making more sense.
Exactly.
And it's like oh, I could do that.
Yeah. Do that. Got that skill. So what was your kind of breaking in point? Like you said, you know, it is kind of tough just to, you know where to start sometimes, particularly when you haven't been studying that, you haven't had internships in that industry. Like, what really got you in the door, got you started?
Absolutely. So I was working, you know, another full-time job, not in the industry at that point, and one of the organizations that I was familiar with from living up in Tahoe was Boarding for Breast Cancer, B for BC, the company that I work for now. And I loved what they were doing so much. I thought it was so cool. I was like, wow, that's so great that they're not only in the industry, but they're doing something for the greater good. And, you know, it also kind of had that tie-in with medicine, you know, that biology aspect that interested me. And so I basically just called them up and said, hey, do you guys need any help? Like, I'd love to just come in, volunteer any way I can, just to, you know, contribute to this great thing that I think you're doing. And yeah, from there, that, you know, just volunteering for them turned into a job, and I just started there.
So you really just, I mean, you went in saying, I will work for free.
Absolutely.
Just let me.
I had, you know, a certain structure that I was supporting myself, and you know, I basically just knew that I loved what they were doing and just wanted to help. I wanted to contribute. At that point, I didn't even know that it was going to, you know, end up being the job that I had at that point. You know, I think that's so important. It's like, it's as if you're in college and everyone says, do as many internships as you can, expose yourself to as many things as you can, because you never know which one's actually going to stick. That's kind of what I was doing in a postgraduate situation.
Why not?
Yeah, I was like, I'll make the time. This is something I care about. This is something that I believe in, and yeah, so that's how it started.
And tell us a little bit more about what Boarding for Breast Cancer does.
So we do a lot of things, actually. It's really exciting. It's really an exciting environment to work in because every day is different. We do a lot of event-based stuff, a lot of fundraising-based stuff. We do a lot of educational outreach at a lot of big action sport events that go on throughout the year, music festivals, that kind of stuff. We work with a young survivor community, which is, you know, it really is meaningful to kind of have that connection with young people that are going through something so isolating at a young age. And so it's really a multifaceted organization in that way, where every day is different. You know, it's you're doing a lot of things, and you know, part of what I believe in most too is, outside of the educational component, is just advocating for women in board sports. You know, it's having that voice. It's promoting those people in a positive way that I think makes a big difference.
Tell us more about that, like the idea of promoting women in board sports. Is that something that you feel
is imbalanced right now, that women aren't getting enough attention, and is that something that's really important for you to bring more light onto?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's important for a lot of reasons. Yeah. There is still kind of an unbalanced representation of women compared to men, and I think there's a lot of things that contribute to that, and there's a lot of things that can be done to change it. It's kind of the way things generally tend to go in sports, but representing women better in terms of equal prize purses in competitions and having them represented properly in marketing terms. That's kind of where I wanted to make a difference too. It's like having women represented as athletes and as, whatever else speaks to their personality. I feel like a lot of the time women are portrayed so one-dimensionally that it doesn't allow you to really explore all these different things that you are, like society as a whole. And as you're growing up, a lot of things that have to do with just women tend to be, unfortunately, it's like
about how they look.
Yeah, it's about how you look. You're supposed to be a certain way. A lot of girls become really concerned with their body image and their weight and what boys think of them. And and then you have these women athletes that actually are able to be comfortable with themselves and progress in a healthier way that I think is so important. And I don't know, it's just kind of finding that balance and representing women in the sport properly so that younger women can kind of look to them as role models, you know, and have that guidance, have that as a role model instead of just seeing all the fashion magazines that society is so saturated in,
Right. Like one image of one version of what a woman's supposed to be like, or what she's supposed to do. And do you feel like that how the way women are presented in action sports right now is fair, or do you think it could be better?
I definitely think there's improvement that can happen. It's come a long way, absolutely. I think it's actually a really exciting time to be a woman in action sports because a lot more companies are kind of getting it. There's that difference between the company that, they're selling a product or they're selling a lifestyle, whatever it is, and, they have different aspects, even in terms of their website, there will be like news and surfing and snowboarding, and then there'll be like a girls section. Yeah. And you get excited because it's like, oh, a section for girls. And then you click on it and no, it's just a bunch of girls in bikinis. Right. It's girls being like, girls being portrayed in that way. And so that's always kind of disappointing, but I feel like a lot more companies are getting it these days, and they're making sections for girls that, shows girls as athletes, as girls who travel, as girls who are adventurous, and who maybe they like fashion, maybe they like being really hardcore. There's so many different types of women that it's not fair to have all these different categories for guys and then just one for girls. Right. And you're supposed to get pigeonholed into that one thing. And I think there's a lot of improvements happening in a lot of companies that are really getting it and that have that are listening to women's voices, and it's going in a positive direction, I think, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done.
Yeah. No, that's good to hear, because I think it goes back to what you were saying at the beginning of, when you're only presented with one idea of how things are, you just don't know any better, whether it's like what career paths you could follow or how you're supposed to act or be, or, when you don't see women in the media and sports, you just don't even know that it's an opportunity area for you.
Or you see women portrayed as one certain way in sports. So it's like, if you're not that, then that's not you. Right. Whereas I think you can be who you are, but also have that passion for sports.
And is there anything that you guys are doing with Boarding for Breast Cancer that you feel really excited about because it is helping to bring more light to women's action sports?
We have an amazing team of women athletes. Sorry to cut you off there.
No.
We have an amazing team of women athletes that just really portray the sport in, their own unique way. And we have women surfers, women skateboarders, women snowboarders, a woman wakeboarder, and it's these girls that are really just, their personalities are really shining through, and it's just like, just getting the spotlight on them, I think is so important, because it shows, like, look at how different they all are, but look at how much they love what they're doing. And, you know, it's really important to have those healthy, active kind of role models for young women, because, you know, if you're more concerned about, you know, being this certain person and this certain weight and having this certain look, then, you know, it doesn't allow you to explore your personality as much and follow your passions and discover what those passions are and what you're good at, and kind of how that can shape your life.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So we talked a lot about how you've been able to take your passion for action sports and move that into a career and what you do. I'd like to know a little bit more about, you know, how do you find time to actually do it when you're not working? You know, how do you still make it something that you love and is part of your free time?
Right. I mean, it can be tricky, but I'm in a very fortunate position where a lot of the things that I would want to do on my own, that I'd want to go to for fun, I go to for work.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I travel a lot to the mountains. We do fundraisers there. We do outreach there. We go to a lot of big action sports events. So it's kind of a unique position that I'm in, that I'm really lucky that, you know, I get to visit those places that I would love to go just on my own.
That's awesome.
You know, we're either teaching people or doing our educational outreach or raising money for the cause. So it's definitely exciting.
Do you have a favorite event or a favorite sport that you like to watch?
I mean, snowboarding is my first passion. It's my first love. So I always love watching it. And so it's fun at these competitions, especially, you know, I've grown so close with so many of the girls on our team that it's fun to watch them compete and root for them. And it's definitely a lot of fun to watch. I mean, the level of talent is just getting so exponentially higher every year that it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. So you're lucky enough that what you would want to be doing in your free time, you happen to get to do with work.
Absolutely. But then, you know, I'm always ready on the weekends too, that I'm not on a work trip, to just pack up and go. Like I love just getting in a car and just, you know, going wherever that next adventure is. And I'm lucky that I surround myself with other people that like to do that too. And so it just makes it fun. It makes it fun to pick up and just go somewhere new and feel like you're in a completely different environment, whether that's camping or snowboarding or going to the lake or whatever it is. It's just, it's always a lot of fun, and it's just a completely different world. It's good to unplug like that. That's so important to me.
It's so important. We all need
Yeah.
a little bit more unplugging.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you say that you really try to prioritize your time so that you do get to actually enjoy these sports and make it something that...
Yeah, I think it's easy, you know, as amazing as it is to combine your passions with your work life, a lot of the time people get burnt out. You know, a lot of time people get burnt out on trying to do that thing that they love for a career, that it kind of ruins it for them. And so, you know, it's definitely important to keep it at a point where you still enjoy it, you know, and I'm definitely still at that point. You know, it's a lot of travel and a lot of different events, but it definitely, you know, I think just so many elements of it I love so much that it always keeps it fun for me, and I still love, you know, it's still the most amazing feeling. My biggest passion is just, you know, getting out there on a snowboard and getting to explore like that.
And what advice would you offer to other single girls who really want to take something they're interested in and turn it into what they do for a living and make it really part of their everyday life?
I think it's just so important to try as many things as you can, to get out there, do those internships, do those, you know, volunteer, try and track someone down. You know, that's how I started talking to people. Was I started seeing these people that it's like, wow, what you do is really cool, and you start talking to them and figuring out how they got there. And it's so important to just put yourself out there, you know. And I feel like it's, you know, a lot of people are timid to do that, or they think that it's not going to work, but that's how you figure it out. That's how you get the inside scoop. That's how you know, try things, and it can lead to some really amazing things. And that's how I figured out that this is what I love.
What kind of reactions did you get from people when you were first trying to explore the industry and were asking people for their advice or, just trying to break in?
It was always really positive.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people that, there's a ton of people that are in the workforce, and unless you're considered an expert in your field for some reason, nobody really asks you about your experience. No one really asks you about, so many people have their own path that they took to get there and their own passions that nobody asks them about because, why would you?
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people actually find it really flattering for someone to say, hey, I love what you're doing. How did you get here? Can I shadow you? Like, can you teach me about, a lot of people are just waiting to be a mentor. Just nobody ever asks.
Yeah, it's such a good point. I think a lot of people hesitate to ask for that advice because they feel like they're intruding. But to your point, I think a lot of people actually find it flattering. Yeah, they want to be able to talk about what they do, especially when they're really excited about what they do.
Exactly.
And they want to share that with other people and give other people that chance too to learn more about it. I think that's a really good point. Like, you just can't be afraid. You have to just lean in and go for it.
I think the more things that you can try to explore, the better. It can make all the difference between, something that you thought that you'd like and something you never knew you'd like and end up loving.
Yeah, that's such great advice. We call the site the Single Diaries because we try to emphasize that the most important relationship any girl can have is the one that she has with herself. And that it's really important to figure out who you are, because once you figure that out, then you can be the best version of yourself in any other relationship that you have. So I'm just curious from you, what does that really mean? And how have you really been able to, be true to your single girl, as we like to say?
Absolutely. I mean, I completely agree with you to the importance of that. And, as cliche as it sounds, like, I feel like it really was about finding myself and about, finding what it is that kind of drove me, and that, finding my passion and finding what I can do as a career that is fulfilling to me was very empowering. It made me feel so much more in tune with myself, and all of a sudden the people I was working with, the people, the companies that I was working with, and the communities I found myself in, they were all people like me. And that's so exciting. That's so fun to just find yourself in this environment where you're meeting people that grew up, in thinking the same things that you do and loving the same things that you do and turning that into their passion, and now you're meeting them from all different walks of life. So I think it's really important to kind of find that, and it's definitely made me a better person. It's made me a better version of myself because I'm excited about what I'm doing, and I want to share that with other people, and it makes me just better at what I do. And I feel like just having that completeness in an area of your life really helps everything else kind of fall into place too.
I'm sure the people that you work with feel that, like they can tell that you are excited about the work, and it is something that you're passionate about, and that makes your work that much better, and those relationships that you have with the people you work with that much stronger.
Yeah, and I've met some of my closest friends, through this industry now, that, I feel really grateful for.
I think it's so important, and it's, had you tried to stay maybe the safe route of continuing to pursue medicine just because that's what you had been doing, even though it's a very personal decision, it does have an impact on the other people who come in and out of your life. Maybe you would be working in medicine but not as happy and not being as fulfilled in work, or having a stronger relationships because you didn't relate as well with the people that you were working with.
Absolutely. And I mean, that was something that I always really struggled with, because the reason I was studying bio and that stuff is it was interesting to me, and the last thing I wanted to do was work in an office, because the only experience that I'd had working in an office at that point, I hated it. And so, I went to school thinking the one thing that I don't want to do is business. I never want to end up in an office. I don't want to be like that. And so that's kind of what took me the science route, which was interesting, but I never really felt like it totally fulfilled me. It never really felt completely right. And the people that I was hanging out with a lot of times were the people that, were doing what I do now. And so it's a very personal decision, but it's kind of like figuring out, okay, is this going to make me happy? Is this, is this just the safe route, or is this what I actually care about? And I think kind of discovering that and figuring that out was so important to me, because I am so much happier now than I would have been. I know that for a fact. Things just feel more complete.
Okay, so just a few last questions that I have for you. Some fun ones.
This sounds like it's gonna be
So I have to ask, because I am a huge eater, lover of food, and I want to know, if you could only eat one thing for the rest of your life, what would it be?
This one's easy for me. Anyone who knows me would know that I could eat pizza for the rest of my life. Absolutely. My nickname growing up, my family used to always call me Liza Pizza, because I was the pickiest eater, and I would always eat pizza. I mean, right now it's my favorite thing in the world to have for breakfast. It's cold pizza. Okay. Oh my gosh. So yes.
You're like halfway there. You're like almost eating it.
Exactly.
Do you have,
that one's easy.
A topping preference?
Recently I've been going Hawaiian a lot. Okay. That's always a pretty good route. It was like olive and mushroom too, it's just, there's so many options. See, it's not even fair to say pizza, because it could mean so many different things,
That's like a smart answer. I like that.
Like, so many people just don't even understand, how good
it can be.
I guess that's my Italian side, just shining through.
Okay, now it all makes sense. Okay, if you could tell, one story about your life when you're 80 years old, what is it that you want to be able to say or talk about?
I really want to be able to say and be able to feel like I did everything I could, that's something that I love to do right now. I always want to do everything, and sometimes I find myself overextended, but I'd rather do it that way than feel like I'm just, sitting back and letting life pass me by and letting work get in the way and all that kind of stuff. I want to look back and tell the kind of stories when I'm 80 that my grandkids are going to be like, wow, she was really cool. Like,
Grandma was cool.
Grandma's a badass. I want to have those kinds of experiences in my arsenal that I feel like I really lived. I really went out there and did everything I wanted to, and just experienced as much as I could.
Don't we all? I hope that my grandkids think that I'm a badass.
Yeah, right?
To some extent.
Towards, I feel like.
Yeah, my life goal.
The kids 80 years from now.
Oh my god.
What are they going to think?
So Pete, I know. They're going to be like, what are you even talking about? I don't even know what that is. Okay, if you, final question. So what would you say your words to live by are?
Words to live by. There are so many that I could choose. I mean, there's so many wise things that have been said. One that I really like is well-behaved women seldom make history. And just like the reason I think that's so good is because so many women especially have, grown up in an environment where they feel like they can only do so much. And it's really kind of breaking through that and being in a position where it's like, I'm going to break these rules because this is an opportunity and this, is exciting and this can happen and I can be the one to do it, So I feel like it's just kind of going against what society has said is okay and really challenging yourself and going out there and seeing what you can do.
Yeah. Love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. This is fun.